Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of 30 Coins. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, in the town has two investigators from Madrid. Was it Marisa and Christina, I believe. They come to investigate, because it's Laguna was like, yeah, I call for reinforcements. It's like, no, we're not the reinforcements. We're taking control of everything. You are the reinforcement. And he's just kind of like, okay, good. Because for him, it's just like, I don't really know what's going on here, because they were saying in the past, 3 years or something, 5 or 3 years or something like that, you've only done 3 reports. In the last year alone, you've done 25. He's like, I don't know how to explain it. All the deaths, all the suicides, it's just a lot of terrible shit is going down. So trying to piece together certain things, because obviously it's also well, what's the most recent situation? Well, there's a whole Jesus situation. Why was he flinging a gun around? Where is he right now? It's well, he's at home, until trial and stuff. So obviously they go and visit, and Laguna is telling Jesus, all right, stick to the damn story. He's like, I killed, Elena's husband. It's shut up. I don't know who you killed, but it wasn't Elena's husband. Because even Jesus is trying to figure out, who was that person? How is he still alive? I killed him 2 years ago. He's I don't know who you killed. It's you need to just keep your shit together. He's I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help your family. I'm trying to keep everyone, because if it gets revealed that you killed someone, this is going to be a lot of attention this town doesn't need, and I'm trying to help you out in the long run, especially because you're saying you killed Mario, but it's obviously he's still alive. Well, not anymore. Obviously, it's just lie upon lie, and obviously it was just too much for Jesus. So when the time came, he ended up killing himself, because I think the whole guilt of Mario made him feel guilty again, and he had been able to bury it. I mean, probably not successfully. Why he's so angry and everything. It's probably what he did, living with that guilt. It was eating him away, and so rather, depression is anger turned inward. So he probably took all that depression on the inside and kind of reversed it and took that anger out on everyone on the outside. It was just his way of kind of dealing with something he was keeping to himself the entire time. Because obviously, and the investigators were wondering, oh, is he a drunk or something? It's no. But it's yeah, he was drunk when he was swinging a gun around. And, Laguna was yeah, but that was a one-off incident. It doesn't necessarily mean he's an alcoholic in this. But it's bad enough that he pulled the trigger. It's sad he did it in front of his daughter and his wife, which obviously she's pissed at everybody, because she's saying that basically the entire town pushed him to it. It's basically blaming Paco. It's because you and Elena came to my house. You kind of put my daughter's business out there. That's kind of what set this all in motion. So, I mean, to be fair, because they don't know. The only person who knows the truth is Paco, Elena, and Laguna Laguna doesn't know, but Jesus, Paco, and Elena are the only are the only ones who know that he killed Mario. So, and if you brought that up now, it'd be what? No, he didn't, because there's Mario was here and everything, but then he committed suicide. It's just, they have to swerve around a lot of this, because even Laguna himself even admitted, he was I don't know what's going on here, but he doesn't really see, because the only people who really know the supernatural stuff that's going on is Paco and Elena. Everyone else is just kind of some weird shit's happening in town. They blame Elena, they blame Manuel, but there's other, they're kind of at the root, but really they're not the cause of it. This is happening because they're in this town, because Elena had the coin, because Manuel had the coin. I mean, to be fair, they wanted the coin and Manuel, but now it's we just want the coin. Bump you. You've stood against us. So then you have Manuel, who's in Syria, basically taking Sandro's advice. But it turns out, the way he talks about it, it seems like he wasn't the one that really made that decision. The other father that he's working with is the one who kind of suggested it, because Manuel doesn't he feels like he's running. He was it's cowardice, because to be fair, while he's on the run, kind of hidden away, Elena's in danger, and he's trying to get in touch with her, but it was just Fabio pretending to be her. At the moment he mentioned Sandro, you're he messed up, because I guess he was just under the assumption that, you're closely tied to Elena, so you most likely have told her everything about what went down. So mentioning, for one, not only that Sandro that just mentioning Sandro in general, but also mentioning that he was dead. It's like, I haven't told her about Sandro, let alone telling her that Sandro is dead, because he hasn't really talked to her. He's been trying to get in contact with her. So they can't find Manuel because of the, whole him being in Syria. Obviously, Sandro had said by going to a place like that, you're able to stay hidden. They kind of went into a little more detail about how that works. And I guess it should have made sense, but it's like they can follow your heart by your fear. So when you're in a place that's filled with so much death and kind of despair and fear, it kind of masks your own fear away from their, they can't see your heart, essentially. But the reason why I'm saying I guess that makes sense is because the mirror from episode 3 was basically kind of threw your own fears back at you, and the mirrors are kind of like how they kind of keep a world-eye view across people. So it makes sense to a certain extent, but I thought it was like, because they never explained that before. They still didn't even explain like the whole dream thing. It's like, it's like the dude had the other father had suggested, why don't you get in touch with Elena that way and kind of warn her about the coin and everything. And it's like, like Sandra did. I was like, I guess it's just something you can do. Like, I guess if you're aware of it, you can tap into it. But he's like, Fabio can follow me. It's like, yeah, but he's kind of like a child in that world, so he'll kind of get lost because it's like a maze. And when Manuel does do it, he comes across obviously some of the town people, in particular like the butcher and the 3 ladies that love the gossip, and they're basically talking about how Elena's kind of whoring it up and slutting it up, and you're like, oh Jesus, those catty ladies start some shit later on too, but like they wonder why like Elena was kind of shitty towards them when they were like, oh, we're trying to make up for it. Yeah, you ladies who are also involved in burning down her business, sure, so, but he ends up bumping into Elena, and it's like, well, how do I know you're you? It's like, because you like me, and that makes you nervous, which I don't know how to interpret that, whether that's just because, whether she means like you like me as you like me, or is it just like you're scared because you do like me and you're afraid to get close to me, like in a sense of like, oh, you found a little kinship with me, not necessarily a relationship kinship, or are they implying a relationship kinship in like, he's like, oh, he has a thing for you, like Paco. I kind of lean towards more so the former than the latter, but I could be mistaken in that regard. But it's like, yeah, the coin. It's like, yeah, I don't have the coin anymore. I tossed it. You what? Yeah, but they said it'll come back to me. It's like, they said it'll come back to you. All right. And they're trying to like navigate around, but the girl that cut her face like pops in again and cuts her face. And the moment she does that, it makes Manuel kind of jump back. I guess the point was to kind of shock him awake, kind of like that feeling like when you're in a dream and you fall and you kind of like shake yourself awake. I guess they were kind of trying to cause that sensation, like basically send a shock of fear through him to kind of wake him up and leave Elena alone. And because of like, her fear, her not being in a place where she can be blocked off like he is, they can't specifically find Manuel, but they can find Elena by having her fear and everything. So they track her and she runs into Fabio and like she starts sinking into the ground. So I guess that's supposed to represent like, we're closing in on you. We know where you are now and we've got our grasp on you. We know exactly where you are. And since we know where you are, the coin can't be too far behind, which we found out like in between like last episode and this episode, it's been a month. So that was good. Once again, it's just interesting because like every once in a while they'll reference like how much time frame is, because you wouldn't expect like as much time passes in between certain points, because it's like a lot of times it ends up being like a month in between every episode. So that was just interesting. Well, since we're at that point, since I brought up Elena, there's a whole situation of, obviously she's in Paris with Roque. Like, I guess it's just like, she finally did leave. I was wondering about that. She did up and leave town. And it's like, I'm done with this place, especially after everything with her husband, the double. It's like, nah, bump that. And so she ends up, spending time with Roque, and I was like, oh, I guess he hasn't surprised her on that, especially because it's like, you know what? Actually, for him, he explains like, he is not so used to having happiness in front of him, so he doesn't believe it when it happens. So I guess that's why he didn't want to spring it on her immediately, because it's like, he was enjoying it, and it's like, but now it's solidified that this is really happening. I can say like, hey, like this coin, it brought it. Well, at first he was like, this thing, it brought us together. She's like, whoa, are you proposing to me? And it's like, no, just open it. And it's the coin, and she flips out. And it's like, I didn't lose that coin and toss it away. He's like, I thought it was important to you. He's like, hell, I thought it was a symbol of us getting together. That was like fate. That here's a coin that looks exactly like when you lost. And she's calling up Paco to let him know, like, hey, like the coin, it found its way to me. I'm in Paris. We also got a better understanding of that pendant that priest ends up handing out. Because I was wondering, I was like, oh, 'cause I assumed it resurrects the dead, and that's why like they're unstoppable killing machines. Like, oh, you shoot them and everything. But when they put it on an old man, like he ends up going in a bit of a trance, and he busts into the restaurant, kills the waiter, it kills Roque, and you're like, oh, that sucks. More and more people just becoming casualties in the middle of all of this. And he's going for the coin, but a security person shows up and during a struggle ends up ripping the necklace off and he dies immediately. So I was like, okay. So, because I thought was like, it was a zombie thing of like, they put that on someone that's already dead. So like, oh, that's why they don't feel like being shot. It's like, no, the pendant or whatever makes them superhuman, gives them superhuman strength, makes them not invulnerable, but they can't be stopped by pain or slowed down. But it's like the moment the necklace comes off, the pendant comes off of them, they die. It's essentially like, oh, you become superhuman, unstoppable, but the price is you die at the end of it. I guess maybe the argument is like everything that happens to you is killing you, but the pendant keeps you going. Like you're in this trance where your body's basically being puppeteered, but the moment your body, I don't know whether it will automatically kill you, because each instance of the person dying with it being ripped off, they were shot to shit after, like beforehand. So I'm wondering, like, were they still alive, but then the moment they got shot, what would normally kills them in that moment, but the pendant keeps them puppeteering, and then the moment the necklace is off, what naturally killed them. Or were they dead the moment the pendant is on them, and it's just, hey, we're possessing your body, your soul is basically gone, and now the moment the pendant's gone, your body's a lifeless corpse. Well, that's redundant to say. You get what I'm saying? So I'm curious. Like I said, you got a better understanding of it, knowing that you don't have to be dead just for someone to put it on you. It works on living people too. So that was just kind of interesting. But getting the coin didn't work out, and now Elena's got the coin again, and it's just like she's probably gonna blame herself because now like Roque's dead now too, and it's just like this coin. It's like you can't let them have it because they've got literally all 29. That's the last coin. If you let that fall into their hand, they have unimaginable power. Because the father that was talking to Manuel was explaining like some guy had attacked the Pope some time ago, but the Pope miraculously healed. People were like, oh, it must have been like the doctors doing a really good job, but it's like it was most likely relics. But so the relics around the Pope protect him. But with all 30 coins, Fabio and the others will be in complete control. I should also note, we kind of saw a little bit of what Fabio was bringing up last episode about like, oh, like Pope doesn't even know that you're anywhere. Like he sees a video of you in that place that we say you were. So I mean, it's like the power of that magic is crazy. Not only made him sound like Elena, it's like, oh, you can deep fake some stuff without even having to deep fake it. You can deep fake it by just using magic. I'm curious, is it someone designed to look like him? Or are you altering reality with like videos and television to make people see that? I would assume it's just someone made to look like Manuel, but I could be mistaken. I'm curious like how that will work, because I would still assume what you're seeing on the television and the videos is really happening. So it's not like they're doing it to an imaginary person. There has to be someone there. It's just to everyone else's appearance. To everyone else, that person appears to look like Manuel. I'm assuming that's how that whole thing works. Manuel's situation, on the other hand, isn't well because they found him out. I think it's the whole him being in Syria and the whole cross and everything. I think it's kind of like what you represent, what you believe in our country, considering everything that goes on. I think it's at least what the conversation seems like it was going about. It's like people like you came in here kind of spouting your good word and everything, but turned a blind eye to the thousands of people that died. So it's like, that's why we will never see eye to eye with what you believe and what we believe, because it's like you come in here with such pretty words but don't really back it up. You're not there for us when we need you, so you're just as much the enemy as anyone else. Like you representing that here, that cross and everything, is blasphemous to us because of what it represents and who it represents. So he ends up getting dropped in a hole. Obviously, like, it's like, oh, you and the other two people here, they're going to get all three of you are going to get executed tomorrow. So, and he had this almost, not necessarily epiphany, but I thought it was kind of an interesting thing. I wonder if this, where he was saying, someone years ago told me that you enjoyed our suffering or something like that. And he's like, I didn't believe him. He's like, I'm not asking for you're not, I'm not going to be in your favor. I'm sure I'm not going to get your forgiveness, but it just looks like it's a situation where he just feels like God's kind of abandoned him when he needs to. It's like, because it's not just my circumstances. It's like, I also got to help Elena because, he even said it like, I ran away from all this. It's my fault because I was running away from everything for so long about what was really going on. And now he denied the truth, not only to them, but to himself. And now, like, so many people, like I said, got caught up in the cusp of all of this going on. So he wants to make things right. Now, will things work out for him? I wonder, because part of me was almost halfway expecting when he climbed up the rope, I thought it was going to be Fabio. It's like, oh, I'm here to save you. But Antonio says it later on. It's like, they don't want him anymore. It's like, after we tried last episode, you killing a few of us, stabbing me, Fabio, and then it's like, screw that, you're dead to us. I don't need you. We know where the coin is. We're going to get the coin. We don't need you anymore. We wanted you to be on our side, but nope, you spurned our hand that we extended out to you. So it's kind of like deuces. So like I said, I just thought it was going to be Fabio who ended up saving him for whatever reason, but no. So I'm curious how he's going to get out of that situation. Then, there's the whole Paco situation, because there's a complicated thing with him and, Merche, because he wants to kind of put all this, like, he's kind of having second thoughts about this whole mirror thing. And she's like, no. We've literally invested too much for you to kind of back out. But for him, it's like, this isn't what I really want. It's because for him, he feels like it's more so what she wants. And it's just like, more recent time has kind of made him question everything. I think how important being married is to him. Obviously, he kind of makes it almost seem like, for Merche, like, he makes it seem like this is more so her thing. And she was like, no, this was kind of our thing. But it's like, I'm trying to, like, phrase it the right way that they had phrased it. She was essentially calling him selfish because it's like, you get to do whatever you want and you don't realize, like, how much of an effect what you do has an effect on you and everyone around you. And especially because it's almost like, for him, it's like, why did we get married? He's like, where we are now in our marriage, it almost feels like it's a company, like it's a transaction, rather than, it's like, we just wanted to be happy and in love. And she kind of took it as like from the beginning, I couldn't have kids. And now you're kind of, he's like, I wasn't trying to throw that in your face. That's not what this was all about. Because it's like, oh, you think she's going to accept you? She dumped you. She left you behind. So go ahead and crawl back to her. She won't accept you, which he did call her literally while her and Roque were having sex. So it just kind of worked out like that. Well, I mean, obviously, like I brought up earlier, we all know how that kind of ended up. But also him being questioned by Christina, and like I said, I think it's Marissa, about, it's like, because now they're starting to paint it like, oh, what went down at the dam? It's like, well, Laguna was there. Yeah, we got his account, but it's like, what was her relationship with her husband? They're trying to ask, like, why did he commit suicide? So obviously, we never got to see the tail end of that, like, what other questioning they had for him. Then we cut to Antonio saying, he's coming. I thought was like, oh, it's Fabio coming to town. But then they're asking him, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, a new priest is coming. It's like, well, let's sit down over some coffee. It's like, what's going on in this town? And I love it. He literally explains, he basically recaps the entire show so far, and it's like, this is what happened. This, and this. It didn't work out. Now they're trying to kill, like, literally labeling everything that happened in town. And it's like, well, that's not the real Mario. The real Mario was killed by Jesus. Well, then who was that guy? Oh, that was a scarecrow. It's like, you think he's crazy, he's nuts. He comes off that way, but he literally told you the truth, because, Paco's not going to tell you the truth because he knows how crazy it's going to sound if he told you the truth. But the truth is there in front of him, but they don't want to listen because they're like, poor thing. But then it's like, oh, there really is a priest. They're like, oh, he wasn't crazy about that. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to leap and jump to everything else, but it's like, oh, here's a priest. Lo and behold, I was like, oh, it's going to be Fabio. It's going to be Fabio. No, do we even know home dude's name? Maybe they mentioned it the last time he popped up, but it's the guy that's essentially like a demon or a devil, like, in human skin. And so, and when Antonio rolls up, he was looking at him, and I was like, oh, so, because the voices told him that, hey, there was going to be a priest coming, but I don't know if he was expecting someone else, and because the moment they're looking at each other, I'm wondering, is like, does Antonio be like, oh, you're the new priest or whatever, or is he going like, wait, I know what you really are. The voices told me the truth about what you are, or is he just accepting it? Because it's hard to say what side Antonio is on, because he's hearing these voices. It seems like he's not really directly involved in everything, but he's more so just kind of doing his own thing while still being connected to this. Why he's their messenger, why he hears what they need him to hear. I guess they need a ground level source for everything going on in the town, I guess. But the literal devil came to town, so that's definitely going to be interesting to see what kind of effect that has on the town, considering Elena's not even there. But I guess the whole point is to maybe cause some havoc, to force Manuel's not really in a circumstance to really come back, but maybe this whole thing is going to, the circumstances is going to bring Elena back to town. So, especially what they set up with Merce too, where it's like, those, once again, I brought them earlier, those 3 catty ladies being like, oh yeah, like, oh, it's okay, it's fine, like, everything is going on with your husband. It's like, oh, he moved in above the bar. She's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, they saw him with 2 suitcases. And he's like, oh, you know who's in Paris, but she's having an affair with Roque. And it's like, why does that have anything to do with my marriage? And it's like, they're like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, go ahead. And then they scatter away. It's like, you're there causing some shit. You're stirring up some shit. Because now, like, you know, that's why Merce, like, burned down, because the fake priest played into like her own insecurities and fears about the whole but the whole Paco and Elena thing. To be fair, there was already something definitely there. Granted, nothing ever happened, but you know, and I think this is just bubbling up that more and more, which I'm like, this is going to turn into something. Like, especially what they're doing the Merce thing. There's definitely some probably messed up circumstance of like, she's going to be pushed to the edge to they're probably going to manipulate and use her to end up killing Elena, because like all the groundwork has been laid, and it's like, you've ruined everything in my life. You know, everyone else, you know, the ladies, I'm sure that's probably how they really feel, because in the dream they were referring to Elena as a slut and stuff like that, because they suck. So I'm sure that dream was kind of a representation of how they really felt and how they really think. But yeah, for them, I guess it's like, it's all kind of going potentially the plan, because this way they can get rid of Elena. It'll probably, rather than kind of having to necessarily get their hands dirty again, it's like, oh, why don't we just kind of spur the people up again, especially because a lot of people in the town, you know, have their own issues with Elena, kind of their own thoughts about her, but more in particular, Merce is the one that kind of has like the biggest gripe against her. So we'll see where that ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.